Hello, my name is Bliss. We're coming to the end of 2018. One of the big events for me this year was the passing of my mother. Belva Bliss died on August 5th of this year. We had a memorial service for her on August 20th, 2018. We had some lovely music and photos and flowers and, of course, family and friends. One thing we didn't have was the videotape running. And I thought, as I'm looking back on 2018, maybe here's a chance for me to revisit the eulogy that I gave for my mom. Also put it on tape, just so I could have it in years to come. But also any family and friends who didn't attend the memorial service would get a chance to hear it. So here's my eulogy from Belva Bliss. Chance once again to remember her and say that I love her. By way of greeting, let me say this. I was making a list in my mind of some of Mom's favorite things, and right at the top of the list would have to be you. You all in the audience. Mom genuinely liked you. You know how she used to boast to you about her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren and about her own kids. But here's what you don't know. She used to boast to us about you. She used to come back after an encounter with you with some new story about what she admired in you, what you did, what you said. Dad used to say to Mom, usually when he was in the car waiting to depart for church, "Woman, you'll be late for your own funeral." I think it's rather the case that Mom would regret missing her own funeral because she knew you would be here and she liked you a lot. I want to share a few personal words about Mom. I won't presume to speak for anyone else in the family. If you haven't heard the details of Mom's passing, the story is that last spring a blood test revealed a further hardening of her liver, unrelated to Parkinson's or to trigeminal neuralgia. The wonderful Dr. Matt Flourish advised her that it was likely in the next 5 years that she would be with Jesus. He advised us that when her liver failed, it would fail suddenly without warning, and that death would follow soon afterwards. I asked Mom how she felt about that prognosis, and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm ready. It'll be nice to be back with Larry," my father, who had died in 2014. As some of you know, my family has only recently moved to Canada. On Friday, July 27th, we saw Mom and said goodbye. She was as vigorous as ever and as good a spirits as a leave-taking would allow. When we got in the car, I told Robin and the kids, this could very well be the last time we see Mom alive. That wasn't because of anything we saw in her condition, but rather because of the prognosis. We successfully cleared Canadian immigration and customs on the following Tuesday at 1:20 in the afternoon. Just 2 hours later, we got a phone call from my sister. Mom's organs were failing, and she would be placed in hospice care that very evening. Dr. Matt thought she could possibly pass away during that first night, or at the most she would be gone by the weekend. Toxins, now unfiltered by her organs, had swept over her brain. She was never comatose, but she was drowsy and uncommunicative, although a flicker in her eyes, some movement in her face seemed to indicate she was responding, as family and friends called in or visited to say goodbye. Mom lasted until Sunday, and I think she would be proud that she did. I think she would have considered Sunday a tribute to two things in particular. Number one, to her own endurance. From Tuesday until Sunday, she subsisted only on ice chips and the sounds of scripture being read and hymns being sung. And number two, Mom would consider lasting until Sunday as a tribute to the resurrection itself. She loved Sundays. She loved Easter. I don't know how reunions work in heaven, but I could imagine Dad greeting her with, "Ha! See, I was right. You were late to your own funeral. We all expected you to die before I did." And Mom would say, "You underestimated my power to endure. I put up with you for 57 years, didn't I?" For the last 2 decades, Mom suffered from trigeminal neuralgia, facial pain which at times was excruciating. About 5 years ago, she was additionally diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Both of these diseases are considered chronic, but not fatal. In other words, you won't die from these diseases. But a patient will have to learn to live with them. A patient will have to develop an endurance which is uncommon in most people. and Mom did. She never really complained about her diseases. In the last couple years, she would have what we took to calling episodes: frantic breathing, spasmodic muscle jerks, heightened anxiety. I think it was her body's way of complaining when her mouth refused to do so. But Mom was a paragon of endurance long before diseases forced her to it. For example, I think she was just as hard a worker as my dad, who was a legend at being a hard worker. The difference is that while Dad worked from some unexplained drivenness, Mom seemed to almost always like what she was working hard at. For example, she liked being a stay-at-home mom. It allowed her to pull such stunts as when she would spot us kids getting off at the bus stop. The long walk would give her enough time to pop some chocolate chip cookies into the oven. Then, when she saw us cutting through the yard, coming around the north side of the house, she would turn on the vent blowers of the oven just as we walked by. After we kids had grown, Mom took a job in food service at Eisenhower Elementary School in Junction City. She endured long days on her feet, but she loved it. She would come home ready to boast to us about her coworkers and about the kids she encountered. The brass school bell she was given by the school district at her retirement was one of her most cherished possessions until the end. Pastor Brian is about to show us from the Word of God how irrelevant it is to remember now with descriptions or stories about her infirmities. Mom is, we believe by faith, now indescribably vibrant in the presence of the risen Lord. Of course, it is an understandable thing that we remember Belva Bliss according to the last moment that we saw her. Last year was a rough one. Widowhood is a suffering. Parkinson's and trigeminal neuralgia have been unduly front and center. I suppose that when a memorial service chooses a photo of an 81-year-old woman for either a display or the program, we choose one that the grandkids will recognize. So the photo of an elderly lady will show her in her later years, but not too recent of a photo, maybe from a time when Grandma was healthy and vigorous. But many of us in this room have photos in our photo albums of Belva Bliss on the back of a horse climbing up to the top of the hill, or wading into the icy waters of Lake Superior, or doing the Labor Day walk across the Mackinac Bridge, or cheerleading at Coopersville High in Michigan, or harvesting strawberries in the huge bed down by the creek, or decorating for elaborate holiday meals, or jostling through the bazaars of India and Pakistan. It's just as irrelevant to look at the totality of the 81 years of her life and say that Belva Bliss was anything other than a very lively woman. Which brings me to the second reason why I think Mom will enjoy learning that she lasted until Sunday. She loved Sundays. She loved Easter, which each Sunday commemorates. She loved new life. For example, she loved her many years of teaching kindergarten Sunday school at Highland Baptist, and there was evidence that she was one of the world's truly greats at doing it. Mind you, there was the flannel graph scandal of circa 1978. Mom was teaching the Christmas story, and when she was done, each child was allowed to choose a flannel graph character, put it up into the nativity scene, and then explain to the class what that character did or meant. Some little girl, Mom would remember her name, picked up the angel, put it up on the board, and said to her classmates, "This is Gabriel. He told Mary that it was okay to have a baby if you aren't married." Mom was lively and loved lively things, like helping to care for elderly neighbors even after they had moved to a nursing home, like participating in a good practical joke or skit. Women from her Bible study will likely never forget her cardboard fortress and the way she would defend her Christmas white elephant gift from thievery. Ladies, she loved you and her times together with you. Thank you for the extra effort you took of picking her up and including her. She boasted on you. Mom's hobbies were all creative. She brought new things into being. She sewed, she quilted, she designed her own greeting cards. She printed out photos of flowers and grandbabies nestled in their father's arms and the fall colors in Maine, and then she would frame them and exhibit them in the Geary County Free Fair. Who does that sort of thing, except someone who has the lively joy of living? She loved taking trips in the RV with Dad. She never liked it more than when the RV was pointed north for a trip to Michigan. to visit the sisters and sister-in-laws, brothers and brother-in-laws, nieces and nephews whom she truly delighted in. Mom loved the holidays and was good at celebrating them, but Easter, it seemed, had a special place in her affections. Maybe it was growing up in the harsh winters of Michigan, only to be greeted by the tulips of her Dutch heritage. She certainly loved flowers in her various gardens, but no, her love for Easter was rooted in her love of the gospel. There was so much of her life, including what I believe was a rigorous childhood, that had the hint of Friday's crucifixion and Saturday's tomb about it. This world was often not an easy place for her, but she had the consciously discipled faith, as well as almost an intuitive sense that Sunday was right around the corner. Jesus is risen. He is risen indeed. Okay, some words that need to be spoken to some specific people. And did I mention her love of fresh flowers? I'm obliged to deliver some bouquets. First of all, a bouquet to all of you who have been such a help during these past few weeks, from those who prepared the wonderful meal we just had, to those who have helped us with this memorial service, for those who have visited and ministered to Mom in hospice, to Dr. Matt Flourish for his outstanding care, and for Good Shepherd Hospice for their kind services. I want to pull out a special flower. Mom would have me labor long to find the best and the freshest bloom for this person, an iris, I suspect, handed to her best friend, Joan Zosky. Joan, I know you two had plans to share your widowhoods together, and I'm sorry for your second loss so soon upon your first. Thank you for being a wonderful friend to my mom. Boy, she boasted on you, up one side and down the other. Thank you, everyone, for your friendship and your own special interactions with Mom and your contributions to her love of life. Okay, grandkids. Abe, Luke, Seth, Jennifer, Connor, Brooke, Adelaide, Faith, Bronwyn, as well as grandkids Andre and Silas. You all get red roses because that is how Grandma signed off letters to her mom, and it's a tradition that she has passed on even to your generation. As you are well aware, when you turned 2, Grandma involved you in one of her most creative projects. She snapped a picture of you in some adorably cute costume, and then placed you in some storybook scene complete with special locations or artifacts from the farm. Began with Abe in Grandpa's cowboy boots next to Chester the pony and a full-blown wanted poster. Now that you are older, fess up, once or twice as teenagers you walked past those posters and rolled your eyes. It's not half as bad as your own kids are going to do when they see them. But fess up, you also secretly know that Grandma loved you with a storybook wonder. That these posters were a way of putting you right in the middle of the fresh Sunday morning, which was her lively creativity. That she wasn't entrapping you in your 2-year-old selves, but rather baptizing you with paint in the hopes of the Easter resurrection, which she loved so much. Art has always been a foretaste of immortality. I won't presume to speak on Mom's behalf to Brian or Laurel, Dewey, Colin, or Colleen, or Robin. We each have our own memories of Mom. But on my own behalf, I want to say thank you to Brian and Colleen, Brooke and Faith, for all the many days and weeks of respite care out at the farm that you provided Mom when Robin and I needed a break. Thank you for all the hard work that you've done in the past couple of weeks following Mom's death, arrangements that fell on you with your siblings being absent. Laurel and Dewey, thank you for the care you gave Mom when she moved out to Abilene with you in February. Thank you, and also Jennifer and later Brian and Colleen and Abe and Christina, again, for the wonderfully kind and caring way that in hospice you helped present Mom to Jesus, her true bridegroom, at the time of her passing. And my children, Connor, Adelaide, and Bronwyn, thank you. We made you move into a new house. You lived with Grandma for 3.5 years of your adolescence. Your mom and I made that decision for you, and I didn't really consult you. I'm sorry for that. You made sacrifices that other teenagers aren't normally asked to make, and I'm proud of each of you. And Robin, you were Mom's primary caregiver for those 3.5 years. The provincial flower of Ontario is the trillium, a 3-leafed white bloom. I don't know if the entire country of Canada has enough trillium to collect and a big enough bouquet to give to you. You were an excellent, patient, and compassionate caregiver to my mom, including bearing the slings and arrows. And I hope I can be as good a partner to you if and when your parents should also need care. Finally, a word of thanks to Mom herself. I'll remind her of one last story. Mom, do you remember when I was in 5th grade and for some unremembered reason my classmates had turned against me? I was so upset that I couldn't go to school the next day. So what did you do? You organized a sledding party for that Saturday and invited every last one of them. It helped that we were from Michigan and the only family in Wichita that owned a long toboggan. We sledded for a while and then you served up hot chocolate in our home. I can still picture Monty Smith and Steve Knobloch and even my worst enemy, Dennis Norrisworthy. But mostly, I remember a thought that came to my young brain. Holy smokes, this is what you do to people who put you in a bad spot. You throw a party for them. I remember thinking, and this is true, my mom is just like King Solomon. I think I also had a sense that no matter how hard a winter might be, there are always some daffodils and jonquils under the surface of the snow if we just have the endurance to wait long enough to see them. Thank you, Mom.